How many people love telemarketers? Anybody? No. I used to be a telemarketer back in 2001. So telemarketing is actually a code calculated precise exploitation. Telemarketing not only exploits customers, but it also exploits the employees. Now, as I stated, I used to be a telemarketer, so I'm familiar with the person placing the phone call, the sweat and bullets trying to make a sale because you need the money, and also more recently, I've been the person receiving the phone calls, wondering why you're calling me and how'd you get my phone number. So I've been on both sides of the phone. Now, according to Wikipedia, telemarketing is a method of direct sales in which a salesperson contacts a potential customer and tries to sell them a product or service. So I don't know if any of you ever received, most of you probably have received a phone call from a telemarketer, or know somebody's received a phone call from a telemarketer. If so, then you probably are familiar with the telemarketing scheme. Telemarketing, like I said, not only exploits the customer, it exploits the employees. Now, how much would you say that a telemarketing employee makes? $8, $9, $10 an hour maybe? Well, according to Indeed.com, today a telemarketer makes about $12 plus commission. Now, being an ex-employee, I know that's not true. We made like $8 or something like that. And then if they felt like you made enough money for the company, then they would bump you to $12 an hour. But that'd be like after a month or so to prove yourself that you can make the money they feel like you should be making. But again, that's only if you made enough money. Now, I used to work back in 2001 when I went to UCO for a company called Dow America. It was like in the slums of Wilshire and Broadway Extension. You familiar? Yeah. I used to work at Dow America. And anybody that worked there could tell you it is a pit hole. But anyway, I made a lot of money for Dow America, and I didn't get paid a lot of money to make the sales for them. We got like $2 or $3 per sale on average, you know, and most of the sales were like $99, you know, that you had to sell. Or if you sold something that was big, it was like $200, and you may get $4 for that. But anyway, if you've ever placed a phone call to like an elderly person, which is typically who's at home around 5 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the daytime, it can be very uncomfortable and they can be very unpleasant, especially if they don't know you and you're calling them trying to sell something to them. So for the most part, it was a pretty intense conversation whenever you place a phone call. And typically you would have something pop up on your screen. You didn't know what you were selling. It would be, you'd have something, a product, you'd have a name pop up on your screen, you'd have a phone number, and you'd have a headset on, it would just beep, and it was time to try to make a sale. Now I had this supervisor, his name was Greg. I don't know if you remember Greg. He had a big square head, red hair, freckles. He kind of looked like the evil guy on The Incredibles. Anyway, he had a yardstick, and he would walk around, he had your name up here, and you put like how many sales that you had, and he would smack the board and say, hey, you need to make more sales, you need to make more sales. Or on your computer desk, he would smack you with the yardstick, saying you need to make more sales, you need to make more sales, you need to make more sales. So that's some of the pressure that they put you on. Now, you would see people get walked out who wasn't making enough sales. Now, if you were like me and needed a job, it was a lot of pressure to try to make these sales. Now, we sold all types of things. Like, I think we had this home improvement books. It was like a series of books. It was like $250 or something like that you had to try to sell. I don't know about you, but there's not a lot of elderly people putting in picture frame windows in their houses or arched doorways or something like that. And then you had Target credit cards. There was like a reoccurring fee that you had to try to sell to people, or Christopher Reeves, accident of death and dismemberment insurance. Like, who wants to buy that? You know, so things like that we had to try to sell. And a lot of these people were like elderly, so they had like Alzheimer's, they had dementia, things like that. So a lot of times you would say something to them and they wouldn't even remember you saying it. Which this manager felt like that was even better, because then you can make them say yes and they would remember it. So then they have you sign these people up for all these types of things. They had a recording that they had to say yes on. So they would ask them the same question that you just asked them. As long as they said yes, even if they didn't remember what you said, then you got to sell for it. Well, after doing this for a while, I went to my supervisor and I was like, look, I can't keep, doing this to these people. I got a grandmother, you know what I'm saying? I have elderly people in my family, so I know exactly what they're going through. Barely even need to pay for their medications. And we're signing them up on reoccurring bills where they can barely pay for their medicine, and we don't have to tell them what their reoccurring bills. So he was like, well, that's great anyway, because you wasn't doing that well, so I was going to fire you anyway. So anyway, then the next time that you get a phone call from a telemarketer or someone trying to sell you something, you don't have to be rude like my dad. You don't have to curse them out and hang up and tell them to get a real job, stuff like that. They're just trying to make a living, just like the person flipping burgers at McDonald's or mowing a lawn at a business or something like that. You can simply just say, please put me on the do not call list, or you can go to donotcall.gov and sign up for the National Registry for the do not call.